All righty, I'd like to call this meeting of the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board to order, our regular April meeting. As far as the agenda is concerned, there are two items that are being added to it tonight. One is a sign permit application from Mid-Hudson, the credit union, Mid-Hudson Valley Credit Union. Hope I got that right?
Yeah, no, you got it wrong. He's in Mid-Hudson, Hudson.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, I have you here to correct that. And the second is a waiver request from Wildercliff on terms of having to file a final plat with the subdivision, with actually the consolidation they did. The planning board does have the authority to waive that as long as the consolidation deed is filed with the county clerk, and that extinguishes the two lots and does create the one lot. So the plat is not actually necessary for filing, so we will take that up at the end of the meeting. I want to remind everyone we have another meeting on April 22nd of this month at 6:30 to try and catch up on a number of the things that we're dealing with. And as far as non-agenda items, correspondence, announcements, I don't think I have anything. I don't know if anyone else has anything.
Meeting notes, 2 installments.
Yes, meeting notes. You'll see two installments are sent out. Could I hear a motion to approve and accept the meeting notes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Very good. Our first public hearing doesn't start for a few minutes, so we could probably do the sign application. This is the same sign that we, at our last meeting, we gave a recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals to approve the larger sign that they were asking for. The Zoning Board of Appeals did indeed do that last Wednesday night, so you've all seen what it looks like. The materials, the color and whatnot. You don't have it?
No.
Oh, well, you can take a look at that. It's what we looked at last.
Here.
And that's what we recommended, the approval of the variance from the ZBA. So what do you think?
It's fine. Very nice.
Could I hear a motion to approve the sign permit?
From me.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Very good. The second, I think we can do right now is the way... Bob did abstain, yes.
Bob did abstain, yes.
The second thing is the waiver for the final plat being drawn up to be submitted with the consolidation deed for the consolidation of the properties at Wildercliff. We've approved the site plan, we've approved the special use permit, we approved the consolidation. They've just asked if it would be possible to waive the requirement for a plat, which we don't require here for any of our use. It's often required for large subdivisions, things like that. Down at the county, obviously, they need that record. So we do have it within our authority to waive that. The consolidation deed will do the same process of extinguishing that line between the two properties, and that will be filed with the county clerk. I think any resolution, we had to be a resolution to waive the final plat requirement based upon the insurance that the consolidation deed, which we already have seen, I believe, we already saw it, will be filed with the county clerk. If there's anything else to mention?
I think you might want to clarify that a little bit.
Probably.
I think the board will simply take the position that you would, the planning board waives the requirement for submission of a survey plat in the special case of a lot consolidation wherein the consolidation deed to be filed, to be recorded in the county clerk's office serves the same purpose. The planning board does so with the understanding that the consolidation deed must be recorded in the county clerk's office and copy presented to the planning board before signing of the site plan.
Which we will be getting. We still submission of a complete site plan before I can stamp and sign. Could I hear a motion to approve that resolution that Art just so excellently described? Second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Okay, so that's waived. I don't know if Dawn is here, but we will let her know. Okay, I think we're ready for our first public hearing, which actually isn't going to happen. Paul Matthews, Old Post Road subdivision plat. This will be continuation for purposes of receiving survey information from December 16th, 2013, and February 3rd and March 3rd, 2014, a public hearing under Town Code, Chapter 101, subdivision of land, an application for subdivision plat approval in matter of proposed consolidation of two parcels totaling 13.66 acres in the town's local waterfront revitalization area and countryside RC5 district, being an unlisted action under seeker. And one thing we do have with regard to this is, we do have a letter, which I'll read, from Marie Welsh, sent to us, the planning board. Dear Mr. Trimble and planning board members, please be advised that due to some surveying issues I have had with this project, I have not yet completed the survey for Paul Matthews of property on Montgomery Street in the village and town of Rhinebeck. Therefore, I am requesting that the planning board continue to hold open the public hearing for this project until the May meeting of the planning board. I hope to be able to submit the information to you by the date needed prior to that meeting. If you have any questions regarding this request, please do not hesitate to contact me. Anything you wish to add?
Not a thing.
Oh, okay.
Motion to continue.
Well, could I hear a motion to continue to our May meeting?
Continue to May 5 at 6:35.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Very good. So we'll see you May 5th at 6:35.
Thank you.
Oh, boy, I wish we could do
Good.
that.
That was quick.
Good, someone got off easy.
It's going to be an easy agenda.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm afraid we have to wait a few minutes for our next public hearing. It's not scheduled until 6:40.
Anything at the end?
No, hold
I
on.
don't know that we have anything else
No.
in here that's for short duration. Everything else, yeah, everything else is a little, everything else is going to take a little time.
Everything's going to take time,
Yeah. Everything else.
including the referrals.
Yeah. So, well, it's spring. That's nice. It's kind of sad that when the meetings go long, we never keep to schedule, but when it goes short, we can't speed it up. I just offered that as a,
No.
I'm glad one of us does. So, yes.
While we have a few minutes, I wanted to take time to say that the sort of agenda that you have this evening is quite overwhelming, and I do think that we all owe you a vote of thanks for the diligence and patience with which the planning board has been dealing with all these different proposals.
Well, thank you.
There are a lot that are quite, much more complicated than the average thing that has come up, and I'm very appreciative of all the work that you do.
Thank you, Nancy. I don't know. I don't think so. Just for future reference for this evening, is anyone here from the CAB? Okay. We'll be calling on you.
Okay, Meg.
One more minute. That 21 of or 20 of?
Close.
Close?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's being,
For our next public hearing, I'm going to recuse myself. I have no financial interest in the next hearing, but I think to maintain the objectivity of the planning board, I'm going to turn this over to Melody Moore. And I'm going to sit in the audience and, of course, reserve my right as a private citizen to comment.
Okay, the next public hearing before us this evening is the Red Wing Properties, Inc., the former Vincent Kinlan Mine, 234 to 286 White Schoolhouse Road for a special use permit and site plan is a continuation of the public hearing for purposes of receiving information on site access issued from February 3rd and March 3rd, 2014, of public hearing on applications for special use permit and site plan review and approval under Town Code Chapter 125 zoning in the matter of proposed special use permit to continue mining within 9 acres of 38-acre life of mine area within the rural countryside RC5 and soil mining overlay SMO districts, and to introduce within the 9-acre area subaqueous mining with related installation of DEC-approved turtle fence being an unlisted action under seeker. The floor is yours.
Good evening. I'm Frank Doherty. I'm the president of Red Wing Properties. Paul Griggs, my consulting geologist, is ill and couldn't make it tonight. But I'd like to make a brief statement, if I could, before we start. Okay. Red Wing Properties is a family business. This year we celebrate 45 years in business. Vincent Kinlan is part of my family. In fact, he's my uncle. Red Wing has been his silent partner, providing financial backing for the last 20 years. We have paid close to $300,000 in taxes to the town of Rhinebeck over those 20 years. We have a good track record of compliance with the DEC. We've never had any real problems with compliance. We've created 11 lakes and aquifers with no problems with water quality or quantity. We've created numerous parks and nature trails in the towns we've done business in, at least 7 miles of nature trails. Sand and gravel needs to be obtained locally. Going further away just adds to pollution and more damage to the roads. We service Dutchess, Putnam, Westchester, some Columbia, and a little bit of Ulster counties. Trucking over 50 miles becomes way too costly and not economical at all. We are not a megacorp, as some people have referred to us. We have 15 to 20 employees. That's not a very big business. Our employees depend on us for their livelihoods, and our customers depend on us for their livelihoods as well. If there were no demand for sand and gravel products, I wouldn't be standing here seeking approval tonight. We've had discussions as far as I want to get into the access to the site right now, which has been the issue for this meeting. We've had discussions with the Labatskys to enter through the access that we've been using for the last 20 years. Right now, we have a tentative agreement with the attorneys. It has not been finalized, it has not been signed, so I suppose we have to probably continue this for another month, at least. We feel we're fairly close.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'd like to open it up for public comment. Anyone?
I have things to say tonight. I'm Nancy Kelly. I'm the town historian, and I'm quite interested in a number of the projects that are before you tonight. This particular one is on land that we have deeds from 1750 for the property, and it mentions a cranberry bog at that time. I wondered if any biodiversity study has been made on the property, and I also am concerned about the Dutch barn that is at the entrance to the property, and the character of the road. The White Schoolhouse Road is one of the oldest roads in Rhinebeck.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Anyone else? All right, well, we were, as Mr. Doherty alluded to, looking to get a formal document indicating that you've resolved the access issue with the Labatskys, and without that in place, I think we'll continue this public hearing until May
5th at
May
6:40.
5th at 6:40.
Motion you need? You need a motion?
Could I have a motion to that effect?
So be it.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you very much.
Mr. Trimble comes back to the board.
You certainly get a nice view from back there. Okay. Our next public hearing we're ready for? Peter? Yes,
Before
sir.
you start, I think a copy of Mr. Doherty's statement should be entered into the formal hard copy records.
That would be good if he has a, he does
I don't know if
have,
he's scooting around the corner there. Sharon's going.
Sharon will tackle him.
If not, he can email it.
Yeah,
Did Sharon go out to get Frank?
yeah,
Get Frank.
get that. Okay. Okay, our next public hearing is Peter Rosenblum and Ashwini Sukthankar, I hope I got that right, at 5 Jones Street, special use permit, site plan, and certificate for demolition or removal. Combined public hearing on applications for special use permits and site plan review and approval under Town Code Chapter 125, zoning and application for certificate of demolition or removal under Town Code Chapter 78, Historic Buildings Protection Law, and Town Code Chapter 125, zoning, Section 12562, in the matter of proposed renovation and additions to an existing single-family dwelling without modifying the present square footage in the Rhinecliff Hamlet and Rhinecliff Overlay Districts, the Hudson River National Historic Landmarks District, and the town's LWRA, with a project comprised of renovation and additions to the existing single-family dwelling, a contributing structure within the Landmark District, and related site improvements being a Type 1 action under seeker. And I think Warren's...
Where's your checklist?
Oh,
Joan? Joan, do we have, can you acknowledge that notice requirements have been met on this project completely? Okay, fine, that's first item. And has a report been received from Dutchess County Planning? Okay, thank you.
All set?
yes.
Okay, I am Warren Smith, architect. I'm here tonight representing Peter Rosenblum, who is with us with his daughter, and Ashwini Supankar, his wife. And this is a typical Rhinecliff Hamlet house, quite small, rather underbuilt by current standards, and we're trying to make it a little better built. We're not enlarging it, we're simply renovating it. We're removing some later additions and rebuilding those areas only to make them function better for the owners and to function better in terms of shedding rainwater and things like that with more headroom. So it's at the corner of Jones Street and Vandenberg Street. Kelly Street is at this, what the road is called at this point, this is into the center of the hamlet, is here. And so the Hudson River is over where I am. The house is not on the river, unfortunately it doesn't have a view of the river, but it does have a pretty large lot in the hamlet of Rhinecliff. In fact, if you look at the original subdivision plat proposed for Rhinecliff, I think this might have been proposed for 3 different houses. But in fact, one house was built in about 1880 or so, had an addition not long after that. And that core of the house remains visible today. It's a 2-story element, a story and a half element with the wing that then juts out to the north. And sometime after that, a enclosed porch was put on the west side, perhaps originally open, although it doesn't look like a very original porch. And then on the east side, there was another addition, several additions, that sort of rambled down the hill. So the point of this, again, is simply to renovate it, to improve the kitchen and bathroom facilities in the house, to increase headroom in some of the particularly low areas, and to improve the structure of the later additions to the house. The only change in the footprint at all is the proposed deck on the east side that would run along the side of the reconstructed kitchen, but the footprint of the house itself will not change. So again, it's a fairly modest project, but of course everything in the hamlet of Rhinecliff comes before the planning board for site plan and special permit review, and because we're dealing with the house, it was listed as a contributing structure within the National Landmarks District. Any proposed demolition of even part of it, whether that piece might be contributing or not, has to be considered under the demolition law that the town of Rhinebeck enacted a few years ago. So that's why there's so many pieces to this application.
And you all received the Warren's reasons, rationale for approving the demolition permit for the partial removal of the actually non-contributing aspects of the building. And so we do have that, and he does go through the various issues that need to be addressed in order to be granted that demolition permit. Melody and I did the site visit. Melody, you want to report?
Well, it's certainly a nice parcel for Rhinecliff in terms of the size of the lot. And I think what you're proposing is going a long way toward sort of cleaning up all these additions that get, accrued to the house over time. So, I think we don't see any problems with it, especially since it's, pretty much sitting on exactly the same footprint, just that little bit of the decking that comes out. I had talked to you, Warren, and I'd hoped we could see a change in that window configuration. I was personally looking to see some symmetry on that part of the house that's going to be fully enclosed. So I don't know whether that's something you've discussed with your client.
It's something I will discuss with my clients, possibly eliminating the center window of these three, so the two sides of the, what we'll call the front entrance, although it's not really used as such, would be more balanced.
But it is the part of the house that's historically reading as the front entrance, even though it's not used as such. And I think to be more in keeping with the style of Rhinecliff, that would make it more appealing to me. Michael, anything you want to add?
I would agree. When we looked over the house, we didn't see anything that was going to do any harm, certainly, to the design requirements for Rhinecliff. I think that the enhancements to the house, it'll certainly improve the roof line. I think it'll actually make the house more attractive. Certainly, I think it'd be more in keeping with the historic character of what was originally there than the add-ons that have probably just been accumulating over the years. So I certainly saw no issues with this particular project. It's an unusually large lot for Rhinecliff, for that part of Rhinecliff. So
I believe you mentioned, and for the public's information, I believe you mentioned that the new parts to the house on the back, you're going to be picking up on the same siding that was on the historic part.
Yes.
right, as opposed to the novelty siding.
So you're actually returning more to the elevations that are returning the historic preservation part? Yeah.
And I just have a comment letter here from Kathy Kinsella, the Town Highway Superintendent, regarding the project. The proposal is for reconstruction of and in addition to the house. The property borders 3 roads, Jones Street, Vandenberg Street, and Kelly Street. Please be aware that there is an overland drainage swale on the property that follows a path from the southeast area of the property along Vandenberg Street to the lot's northwest corner by Kelly Street. In that northwest corner, there is a privately owned culvert that receives stormwater runoff from the swale and directs it to a town catch basin. That swale needs to be preserved and remain unobstructed. If that area were filled in or constructed upon, it could contribute to flooding on Vandenberg Street and on Jones Street. And I don't know if you've spoken to Kathy about that?
No,
or-
but that's not the area, obviously, we're working. You're
Right.
When there was a lot of rain, there was a little lake down in this area.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, it dissipates once it stops, but we're not disturbing that part of the property.
Okay. I don't believe we have any other written comment. Members of the Planning Board, any questions?
You have historian and waterfront committee.
Yes. Nancy, anything that you wish to say to this project? Or any concerns?
No concerns, just that usually when we do, when we like to see additions to historic property, we like to have it either set back from the front or at the back, at the rear of the property. In this case, the property is visible from 3 different roads, and this is an improvement over what was there previously.
Thank you. From the CAB, we need a report from the CAB as also from the WAC in terms of consistency? Okay.
30 days have passed.
Okay, well, okay.
Lisa was with us that day, right?
Yes,
Yes.
Lisa was with us. And Lisa, speaking for Lisa, who's not here today, with the CAB and the WAC, she had no problems with this proposal either. So we can take that as sort of a secondhand consistency recommendation. I'll open it up to the public. Comments on this project? Okay. Members of the Planning Board? Alrighty, I think the thing I need to do is we need to do the draft seeker resolution before we can close the public hearing.
That's correct.
And we also have a resolution for approval later but I'll probably read that later, just so we can continue with the public hearings.
The
Okay?
secret resolution's on the bottom of page 9.
Right. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts as follows in the matter of a proposed action encompassing applications by Peter Rosenblum and Ashwini Sukhankar, I hope I'm getting that right, Warren Temple Smith, agent for special use permits and site plan review and approval under Town Code Chapter 125 zoning, and an application for certificate of demolition or removal under Town Code Chapter 78 historic buildings, and Town Code Chapter 125 zoning, Section 12562, to authorize the renovation and additions to the existing single-family dwelling at 5 Jones Street, being a contributing structure in the Rhinecliff Hamlet and Rhinecliff Overlay Districts, the Hudson River National Historic Landmark District, and the town's LWRA, all as depicted in architectural drawings and on a site plan prepared by Warren Temple Smith Architects and dated January 7, 2014, and otherwise subject to a full EAF Part 1, verified by the applicant, a coastal assessment form signed by the project architect, and a letter of March 7, 2014, from the project architect describing the contributing structure and the proposal to remove and reconstruct its non-contributing additions, being a type 1 action due to its location within the National Landmarks District, for which the Planning Board, as sole involved agency with permitting or approving jurisdiction, is the seeker lead agency. 1. Determines upon review of the EAF Part 1 and its own completion of EAF Part 2 in consideration of the criteria for determining significance set forth in Title 6, Part 617.7C NYCRR, the historic preservation policies underlying the historic district designation, and the pertinent coastal policies set forth within the town's LWRP, that the proposed action as described in the application will cause no potential significant adverse impact on the environment, and thus issues a negative declaration, determination of non-significance, deeming an environmental impact statement to not be required and stating that such will not be prepared. 2, authorizes the chairman to so execute the full EAF and directs the planning board clerk to distribute and file the full EAF with negative declaration, annotation, and other documentation as may be pertinent to an unlisted action in the manner set forth within Type 1 action, pertinent to Type 1 action, as set forth within the seeker implementing regulations, Title 6, Part 617.12 NYCRR. And the next document is EAF Part 2. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Could I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. Could I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, very good. And we'll have a resolution of approval for later this evening. Okay. Moving right along. Well, actually, we're ahead of schedule here.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
No,
You're
you're 10 minutes behind schedule.
Oh, you're right, I got the wrong one. I ticked off the wrong one. All right, sorry. This is Peter and Catherine Chirapko, 383 Morton Road, site plan review. Public hearing on application for site plan review and approval under Town Code Chapter 125 zoning in the matter of proposed renovation and additions to a 2-story dwelling on a 1.44 acre parcel in the Historic Preservation HB 20 zoning district, the Hudson River Historic Landmarks District, and the Town of Rhinebeck Local Waterfront Revitalization Area, and adjacent to a certified agricultural district, being a Type 1 action under seeker. Okay.
Okay, this building is at the juncture of Morton and Mill Roads. It's generally known in the community as the old schoolhouse. This is the information that I'm presenting tonight is essentially the same that has been presented to the small and the larger planning board in the previous 2 sessions. The building dates from 1891 approximately, and in the 1950s it was transformed into a residential structure. So that's where we came in as purchasers of this, and we, my wife Catherine and I, wished to add one room in the back on the north side of this structure, which is essentially going to be a living room or a dining room of some sort. It's on the north end here. This is a view from the street, and we're going to be building or proposing an addition that is essentially only about 9 feet longer than the northernmost portion of what currently exists at the site. We're setting back from on the east and the west sides, and several times I've actually looked at this in the car and walking past it and so forth. Because of the aspect of most of the way that most of the times and most of the occasions that somebody would drive past or even walk past or run past the site, the 3-foot setback on each side of the building attempts, and I think successfully, would conform to the idea of respecting the main volume of the site, so the main volume of the building. So there is a notion of the primary part of the building and a secondary part that we're adding to. Now, in terms of the architectural details, we are using the same elements, the same motifs, pretty much the same materials that would extend beyond to the north of this for this new addition. We're using the batten detail, the vertical batten detail, which was actually brought up during one of the first meetings that we had, and a sloped roof, which is a gambrel roof, which is very similar in its type to the roof that is on the front of the porch on the north side of the building, on the south side of the building, which is to say there's a shed and then two sides that go from it. So there is a kind of a symmetry here. There is a contextual notion. These are terms that we would use in terms of adding to. And there's a setback, and the materials and the colors of the proposal are pretty much what they were. I'm just wondering, are there any questions about the facts of that you have? I think that's been established pretty well in terms of what we have here. As I said, I didn't say actually tonight, but on the north end of the building, there's a shed that is really rather dilapidated. It's not clear that it's original or anything, and we're extending approximately 8 to 9 feet beyond that, and about 21 feet wide altogether. It's an extension which we believe is historically sympathetic, is visually sympathetic. Even if you did not know any of the history of the building, you would say, well, here's something that is a first and a second portion. And I think that that's important beyond just going on the rote aspects of using the same materials and things of that nature. So I hope you could see the rendering, which is attempting to show the main part of the building and then the addition. And entertain any questions or comments that you might have. Excuse
Okay.
me.
Very good. Joni, posting and anything from Dutchess County? Okay. Anything from the CABWAC from a consistency standpoint? Yes.
Robert Donaldson, Rhinebeck Conservation Advisory Board. The proposed addition does not appear to present any issues that would be of any concern by the CAB. The only concern the CAB has was that upon questioning the contractor about whether the addition would be built over a solid or basement foundation, he responded that a full basement would be constructed below the addition, where a small mudroom structure currently exists. The CAB would ask that care be given when removing the soil from the site to examine and retrieve any artifacts associated with the old schoolhouse. Additionally, there are a number of very old bluestone flagging stones on the property that I noticed. They probably came from quarries over in Kingston, and we hope that the owner would preserve those stones and keep them on the property there. And those are the only major concerns that CAB has.
Thank you.
I can answer that directly.
It's in the resolution.
It's always nice to see somebody who appreciates an object. We've been staring at these stones and hoping that our contractor has the appropriate material to lift them and all of that. We are definitely going to be reusing those as a seating area or as a walking area. That's absolutely the case, and it's considered an adjunct. It doesn't really come up explicitly as a main part of our proposal, but it's something we would like to do. In terms of the mudroom cellar, that is a stone cellar that exists. It's approximately 6 by 12, and we are keeping all of that and building a new cellar around it. The only thing that's being changed from the existing cellar is an access way to allow you to crouch into there to get to the back. It's not going to be a used space. That may not jump out from the drawings, but on the drawings that we've had of the major prints that were submitted as portion of this review, it does show keeping that stone, and then building a new surround around it. There is a slight slope at that point, and it would be, it's a much better structural treatment to put a concrete foundation in rather than just to try to do a flat condition at that point for the extension. But I agree with your observation, and it's definitely to our interest to keep those stones. And I was interested to hear from our assistant from our contractor that you had made that observation.
Thank you. Who did the site visit?
Sharon and Woody.
Sharon and Bob?
Yes.
Who would like to speak first? Sharon?
Okay, yes, we did the site visit. I think we were, at least I think we all were pleased. I was pleased to see that the addition that's on the back now is just kind of like, it just kind of sits there, and what we are proposing will actually be an enhancement. It'll blend in, it'll look almost like it belongs there. You're carrying the roof line from the front to the back. And the only question I have is, what is the setback from the new addition to the rear property line?
Well, it's approximately a 26-foot wide main building, and the nominal width of the extension is 21, so it's 3 feet on each side, or 20 and a half, it's 3 foot on each side. And the aspect of this, to be mathematical about it, is a really slender triangle, so that you could actually go past this and not even notice the back.
No, but my question is from the back of the addition to your back property line. What is that?
It's 15 feet beyond your minimum. I mean, that was originally mentioned in my first preliminary review at Mr. Maddox's office, and that's been reviewed. We're well beyond that, and as I said, we're only proposing an additional 8 to 9 feet from what exists there. I was happy to hear that myself. That we're well within.
And I believe you said you were putting 2 small dormers on the one side to complement the ones on the other side?
Yeah.
Bob, anything you'd like to add?
No, I just think what they're proposing to do actually complements what is existing.
I wanted to say, for the record, that the treatment is not a rote treatment in terms of bracing. It's the same materials and all that sort of thing. And so the historicist would be able to notice the difference, but in the sort of the general view of the thing, there seems to, I would hope there is a consistency. And we always like to say that if the original architect came back, and we would have had the appreciative opportunity to talk, that there will be an agreement about how you add to something without just being what would we call a rote addition.
And I like the fact that you have, really given much thought about, keeping the materials the same, keeping the look the same. So I really have no problems with this.
Okay. Other members of the planning board, any questions at this point? Or members of the public, any comment, questions?
Good evening. My name is Bert Nelson. My wife Carol and I live on Mill Road, not too far from you, Woody, as a matter of fact. I took the time to sketch what I want to say to you, although I've already sent a letter, which I hope the members of the planning board have had the opportunity to see. Our home fronts on Mill Road and has a clear and unobstructed view of the land and building that we're talking about, 383 Morton Road. That home, as you know, is owned by Peter and Catherine Charopko, who bought it about 1.5 years ago, although we bought our house about 3.5 years ago, and we met the Charopkos when they moved in. As you may know, their house was once used as the schoolhouse for the children of people who worked at Ellerslie a mansion and estate owned in the 1800s by Levi Parsons Morton. The mansion was, I think, as mentioned, destroyed by fire in approximately 1950, and the former Ellerslie estate has changed hands several times since then, and is currently owned by our neighbor, Mike DeCola. One of the true pleasures of living where we do on Mill Road is that we have a clear and unobstructed view of the charming house that Peter and Catherine bought just a little while ago. Fortunately, both of them have a special appreciation for the beauty and charm of that home. Peter is an architect and Catherine is skilled in interior design, so it's not surprising that they understand and appreciate and deeply value the beauty that is inherent in their new home. I believe that it was in significant measure the beauty of the home that, and the property that led them to make that purchase. As plans are being made to update the dwelling, the Chirapkos have been, I believe, especially careful to protect the character and appearance of their new home. Carol and I have reviewed their plans, and we recently wrote to you, as I mentioned, to tell you that we are strongly in support. Now, let me note, neither Peter nor Catherine nor anyone else on their behalf reached out to us and asked us to share our views. But we're directly across the street, and from our front door and from every place in our front yard, their property and their home is what we see. And it's beautiful. And I should also comment that not everyone may be as thoughtful and careful in planning changes to an important home as have been Peter and Catherine. So we are grateful about that. And let me close by saying that as their nearest neighbors with the most direct view of their home and property, Carol and I ask you to give your prompt approval to the plans that are now before you. I should also add that we truly appreciate the important work that is done by the planning board. You really help maintain the beauty and character of our neighborhood. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you. Nancy, I also wondered, were there any comments you have on this project?
I probably just want to second what everyone has said about the design and work that's gone into it. This was one of the first schools that was built in Rhinebeck that's still standing, and it was built before Morton came along. It was built by Mrs. Gerritsen, and has a very, we are lucky to have it remaining visible in this way, because so many of the schools in the town have been enlarged to the point that you don't recognize them anymore.
Thank you. Anyone else, any other comments from the public? Anything else from members of the planning board? Okay, I have a draft resolution seeker. I'll read and put this forward. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board here acts as follows in the matter of proposed action involving an application by Peter and Catherine Chirapko for site plan review and approval under Town Code Chapter 125 zoning, Section 12573B2, in the matter of proposed construction involving renovation and additions to a two-story dwelling being a contributing building on a 1.44-acre parcel at 383 Morton Road in the Historic Preservation HP 20 zoning district, the Hudson River Historic Landmarks District, and the Town of Rhinebeck local waterfront revitalization area, and adjacent to a certified agricultural district, all is depicted on site and archaeological plans, drawings A0, A1, A2, A6, prepared by Peter W. Chirapko, architect, and dated November 26, 2013, and otherwise described in a full EAF Part 1 coastal assessment form and agricultural data statement, each executed and/or verified by the applicant, being a Type 1 action due to its location within the National Landmarks District, for which the Planning Board, as sole involved agency with permitting or approving jurisdiction, is the seeker lead agency. 1. determines upon review of the EAF Part 1 and its own completion of EAF Part 2, in consideration of the criteria for determining significance set forth within Title 6, Part 617.7C NYCRR, the historic preservation policies underlying the historic district designation, the pertinent coastal policies set forth within the town's LWRP, and the pertinent agricultural protection policies set forth within the New York State Agriculture and Markets Law, that the proposed action as described in the application will cause no potential significant adverse impact on the environment, and thus issues a negative declaration, determination of non-significance, deeming an environmental impact statement to not be required, and stating such will not be prepared. The planning board does so with the understanding that the site will be monitored for the presence of any artifacts by the applicant and their agents as minor site excavation occurs to permit an approximately
269.
269?
260.
Square foot addition to the existing structure, and should any artifacts be encountered, the excavation work will immediately stop, and the town ZEO will be notified. 2, authorizes the chairman to so execute the full EAF and directs the planning board clerk to distribute and file the full EAF with negative declaration, annotation, and other documentation as may be pertinent to a Type 1 action in the manner set forth within the seeker implementing regulations, Title 6, Part 617.12 NYCRR, and next document EAF Part 2. Could I hear a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. We will have also later tonight, after the public hearings are done, we have a resolution of approval for your site plan, so that you'll then be able to get a building permit and move the blue stone and all that and have a good time. Thank you very much.
Shall we wait for that?
You don't have to. You can just give a call tomorrow morning. We'll have it tomorrow morning. Unless you're,
If the meeting's over by then.
yeah, it'll be over by then. Okay, our next public hearing, Grace Bible Fellowship Church, 6959 New York State Route 9 North, special use permits and site plan. Combined public hearing on application for a special use permit for not-for-profit or other non-commercial outdoor recreational facility or use, and application for site plan review and approval in the matter of proposed site grading, drainage improvements, and recreational field development, being major excavation on existing church property in the rural countryside RC5 district and adjacent to a site on the National Register of Historic Places, being a Type 1 action under seeker, and a matter subject to application pending before the ZBA. Just before Rod gets started, I'll let you know that the ZBA approved the variances last Wednesday night, so the variances have been granted.
What did they do for seeker?
It was an area variance. Oh,
Forget it.
yeah.
All right, thank you. First thing I'll do is,
Okay.
all right, thank you. For the record, Rod Morrison, professional engineer with LRC Group. We are here for a public hearing for this project, which is for site plan and special permit approval that we're seeking for Grace Bible Church. I also have two members of the Board of Trustees in the back of the room if there are any questions as we go. For a brief presentation, we've gone through this with the board to date, but not necessarily for the public. We've worked with Grace Bible Church for several years at this point. They have had a desire over time to be able to improve the outside of the property, to address basically drainage concerns that are created on Route 9, water coming off of Route 9, as well as just make better use of their outdoor property. To that end, we've tested the soil, we've looked all over the property, and what we've decided to do was the plan that's been presented to the board here. One area, if I can do this. Our property here, we've colored the Grace Bible parcel. It's 9.72 acres. The road on the bottom part of the map is Route 9, if you're not familiar with it, and there's a section of Old Post Road here. Abutting it to the north and to the west are, in essence, open lands, farmlands, particularly to the west. Along the western property line is a wetland corridor, stream corridor here. The brown area here is the existing church, which you can all see from Route 9 and parking behind it. What we're proposing to do to help with these concerns, as well as set the church on a nice course for the future, is to be able to fill the area in the front of the church, between the church and Route 9, basically make it a nice level, a little bit of roll to it in the field, create some very selective plantings there so it looks more natural, some higher trees, create a little privacy for their outdoor events that they have, and if you've driven by there at any time, there's always something going on in their front yard. We had also wanted to go into the rear of the property, create an area that we could build a future septic system, which is going to be a necessity for the church. But at the same time, the church had always voiced a desire to have their outdoor events and an outdoor area for them to recreate on somewhere on the parcel. That also became kind of voicing of their desire to be able to build a ball field, a recreation field that the public, the community could use as well. So we took to sizing and placing basically a full-size Little League field in that property. The way the zoning code works is that that particular choice to have outdoor recreation is a section of the code which causes us to need to get a special permit. And of the 33 criteria for the special permit, there's a couple in there which we've needed to seek variances for from the town of Rhinebeck. One in particular is just the size of the parcel. The zoning variance looks for a parcel of 25 acres. This is 9.72, and as well, the placement of that field 100 feet or more away from the property line, and we encroach on that in this area here. I was not aware that the variances were granted, but just to walk through it. The reasoning for us to place it in that location is just we're able to stay as far as possible off the stream corridor, out of the floodplain, and in essence tuck that field around the back of the old stone church property here. And that originally is where Grace Bible Church was formed. What we get to accomplish from this is, like I said, a very nice landscape. It's really a landscape and grading improvement. We get to create a ball field we get to create an area for outdoor recreation for both the church community and the community at large as well. So.
Okay, I did see that Dutchess County said it was a matter of local concern. I saw that one. We have the referrals. Let's see, what else we have here? Town Conservation Advisory Board report.
On the day of the site visit, CAB member Ryan Dowden was present, and along with members of the planning board, but the engineer of the site was unavailable, and they were only able to speak with the spokesperson from the church. Mr. Dowden wrote that the CAB communicated to the church officials of their main concern being focused on the stream buffer, the wetland, and lighting. Obvious regrading will have to be done. We definitely need to find out what will be used to treat the field as far as maintenance, because everything drains into these feeder streams, which will eventually end up in the Rhinebeck Kill. Also, what type of fill will be used, how much will be taken out, and what will be replaced. There was another concern that we don't have the expertise to deal with, but that the property borders on the cemetery, and the cemetery is on an incline. And over history, the remains of those people interred in those sites will gradually move down and are probably down close to, if not under the field. So any excavation could possibly disturb the remains of those interred in the ground. And so maybe some studies should be done to see that nothing will be disturbed. That's the only concerns.
Nancy, any comment?
Night for history. Big night for history.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of this project, so I don't have too much background on the project itself, and whether there is a slope and planting that doesn't have any graves on it, adjoining it, or whether there are graves on that slope, I'm not sure. So it's very nice for the church to think of having a recreation field, and I think those concerns that you mentioned are the ones that should be addressed.
I have two comments as consultant to the board. One is that the board at the last meeting sent this to the town engineer, planning board engineer, for review. I don't believe that report has been received yet.
No.
And obviously that's about his review concerns a vital element of this project, the drainage plan and the associated stormwater pollution prevention plan, which I note DEC has indicated is a required component and has been recognized by the applicant and the applicant's engineer as a required component. But I think the board has to wait for a report from Ray Jerkowski as planning board engineer. Secondly, with respect to seeker, the board a month or so ago sent out a lead agency, notice of intent to serve its lead agency for coordinated seeker review. The period for for response by any of the other involved agencies has now passed. The board's in a position to declare itself lead agency, which causes me to be surprised to hear any mention of a ZBA action having been taken on this project prior to this particular time. What had been provided for in your meeting notes this evening is in fact a draft seeker resolution that would have been recommended for your action should there have been a board engineer's report. And that purpose of the seeker resolution was then to open the door to potential action by the ZBA.
Yeah, the ZBA was not aware. They were under the impression that it was I should say, type 2 action as 2 area variances as opposed to being type 1 due to its location.
There are certain limitations as to what are area variances, what constitute area variances under the exemption clauses under seeker. And secondly, there is the presence here of the adjacency to 1, if not 2, historic properties, one adjacent and one somewhat opposite. I would recommend to the board that you reach out to the planning board engineer to secure his report in the very near future, and obviously defer any seeker action until you receive Ray's report, and add this matter to the April 22nd special meeting agenda.
Right. We can do that.
For continuation of public hearing, because you'll have to have the seeker resolution before you can close the hearing.
Right.
That would be essentially a recommendation that you place this on the agenda for April 22nd, Tuesday the 22nd, as your first agenda item at 6:35.
I think we already, that's what we did May.
Right.
I guess before we get that, though, since Woody and I
You have
did go out
public,
there,
right.
we will give our report. Woody, you want to?
Mine's very simple. I think it's an excellent use of the property as far as the recreation facility. It's great. I see no problems. I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, we saw no issues. I think, just so everyone understands, no lighting is being proposed for this ball field. There's never an intent by the applicant, so that's not something that they were proposing to do. Other members of the planning board, any questions?
I just wondered if you wanted to respond to any of the issues raised by the CAB. Is there anything you want to?
Yes, I did. I wanted to respond to particularly the gravesite issue. We studied that slope as well. There is, along this property line, here is a very defined stone wall, and the land climbs back up. This area here is wooded, historically wooded, where this area over here is more of a continuation of the farm field. At some point in time, this 9.72 acres was subdivided off of a larger farm tract. And just by looking at the soil in there, it's all previously been used as farmland. So the area that we are talking about for a ball field in here shows no evidence or potential history of it being used for a gravesite or any continuation of the historic stone church. Like I said, there's a very definite stone wall at that corner and old vegetation. So I did just want to address that. So the other thing too, Art, the process that you described is what I was more or less expecting, not information about the ZBA having voted. So we clearly would like to follow the path that you're talking about. So we're in good shape procedurally, and thank you for putting us on the next agenda.
Yeah, I think the CEO has to take responsibility for not informing the ZBA that it was a type 1 action, so I
Hi,
think
CEO.
they need to replace him quickly.
Well, they received a notice. They received a notice of intent.
Yeah, well, they did, but
So anyway,
anyway.
Public comment and then a
Public
motion of the
comment
board.
on this, as I say, we will be continuing this public hearing to April 22nd, but if anyone has any comment they'd like to make now, this does not preclude your ability to speak again on the 22nd. Okay, could I hear a motion to continue this public hearing to April 22nd at 6:35 PM?
So moved.
We do?
No, that's, those others, public hearings were scheduled for the May 5th meeting.
Oh, that's right.
What did we have, Joan?
Page, Darren Page.
Okay, sorry.
How does 6:40 sound? By acclamation?
We put Paige on the special meeting agenda?
We did.
I think we did.
Interesting.
Don't argue with Joan.
I won't.
Yeah, well said. could I hear a motion to continue this public hearing to April 22nd at 6:40 PM?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Very good. And we'll get to Ray to try and make sure we get that report. Thank you. Okay. Next public hearing, Edward Giuliano, 215 and 235, New York State Route 308 East subdivision plat. Public hearing on application for subdivision plat approval under Town Code, Chapter 101, subdivision of land in the matter of proposed lot line alterations, adding a total of 5 acres to adjoining parcels and creating a 5.7-acre residential building lot from a 71.6-acre parcel in the rural countryside RC5 district and a certified agricultural district, being an unlisted action under seeker. You should have had your fruit juice.
He's here,
Yeah,
by the way.
okay. And I'll have him read it.
On their separate.
Take it away.
Okay, good evening. My name is Edward Giuliano. I live at 303 Route 308, and which is right down here at the edge, just outside the edge of town, sort of across from Violet Hill Road. And I own a big piece of property. It's 71 acres, as you see on your left-hand side, just outside of town. My plan is really quite simple. Two of the things that I want to do are just simple lot line moves. So this is Route 308 right here. The Rhinebeck sign is right here, just for your point of reference. My neighbor is at 215. Route 308 are buying an additional 2 acres. So that's going to give them about a 5-acre lot, which is in conformance with, conforming to the zoning, 5-acre zoning here. My neighbor at 315, Route 308, is buying an additional 2 acres, so that's going to give him also 5 acres. Now, the only lot that we're creating is one flag lot right here between these two properties. So there's an entrance right here on Route 308, which goes up the hill. And the plan is to create a 5.7-acre lot. And the driveway would come up here, and there's a housing site right back here. Now, most of this is wooded. There's about like maybe 2 acres, which is the hillside. The rest of it's all wooded, and the housing site is right at the back of the property. So this would protect the view actually of this beautiful piece of property. And the remainder of the property, the rest of 60-some acres remains green, leased out to a local farmer.
Joni, I guess the question is, we have all notification and county said local and we're good to go, okay? Art took my notes, so I have no idea what I'm asking next. CAB report.
Here.
Oh, thank you.
I'll be right with you, Michael.
Okay.
The merger of lands to the neighboring properties will result in compliance with an RC5 zoning of those 2 existing parcels. The creation of a 5.7-acre flag lot is accessed through an old farm road, and the building site is in the middle of an old farm field. No trees will be cut for the driveway or future home. 3 potential septic fields have been proposed, with the most likely choice adjacent to the driveway. A future well is to be drilled. There are no wetlands on the property. Biodiversity maps show the entire property is prime farmland soil, but showed no other significant environmental concerns. CAB saw no environmental issues with this subdivision.
Thank you.
Michael, I'd like to add to Mr. Giuliano's presentation. 2 important pieces of information that the board discussed at the last meeting were in fact submitted in the interim by Mr. Giuliano. The first is an engineering report prepared by David Ryder, PE, which demonstrates the suitability of the proposed 5.7-acre lot to accommodate on-site septic system. And that report is more than simply an opinion letter. It's based upon deep test and perk tests that were actually conducted in the field in accordance with health department requirements. The second item is a highway work permit that has been issued by State Department of Transportation for an access driveway along the proposed frontage of that 5.7-acre flag lot. So those are 2 important pieces of information that the board needs to establish the buildability of the parcel.
Thank you. Melody and I did the site visit. Melody? Oh. Got me there. Melody and I went out, we looked at this, we had, Lisa Camp was also with us. Basically, where the house is going to be, on the building lot, the one they're creating, it's going to be set up behind the rise. You're still going to have the heart there, which we were thinking we might make a requirement for the new owner to keep that there. And you're not really good, you're not going to see, at least we don't believe you're going to see the structure of the house that's being proposed for the one building lot. The other two annexation parcels are going onto existing lots. There's no intention to build or do anything like that. They may even continue in some form of agriculture, I don't know. The remainder of the parcel is remaining in farming, and as the applicant has said, they're already leased to a farmer, and I know his long-term plans are to farm this property himself at some point in time. You may have noticed a barn did collapse during this winter on the back of the property. The intent is to reuse that wood on some structure, I believe, on the applicant's property for agricultural purposes if it can be salvaged. I certainly saw no issues with this project. I think that one of my greatest fears that we were going to see a fairly large subdivision on that property, because it is clearly one of the more beautiful pieces of coming into the village of Rhinebeck that I think we've all gotten very used to seeing, and I believe that this is actually going to preserve that without any real notice that anything has changed. The one change you'll notice is they're putting a different Rhinebeck sign down below. I think that's a Boy Scout and Eagle Scout project. They're moving it back a little bit. So that's the one change you're probably going to see. I don't know if there's anything to add to that.
Not a bit.
Members of the planning board, any questions? Or members of the public, comment?
Twin houses are the little lots right here. 1, 2, they're right here.
Okay. I think, Tremper, you have a letter to read?
Well, I was just going to make a comment. I had two concerns about your project, Giuliano, but you indicated me of the one being the house site is going to be in the rear of the property. I was under the impression it's going to be right on top of the hill, which would not be complimentary to the gateway quarter in the village. Thank you very much for that compliment. I do have one concern. The concern is in regards to the possibility of this being a precedent-setting, called subdivision. I'd like to read to you a few of my thoughts. I'm concerned about the creation of a 5.7 acre lot being a potentially precedent-setting event. I don't know if that's true or not, but. So this can be reported on Canada. Would you please use the speaker? Okay, I'll back up a little bit. The concern is that the 5.7 acre lot might be a potentially precedent-setting event leading to the possible subdivision of additional 5.7 acre residential lots, all derived from the all-encompassing 71 plus acres, from which the question 5.7 acre lot was derived. In other words, is there any possibility there could eventually be additional 5.7 acre building lots available and for sale to the public? That was my other concern. Other than that, I have no concerns.
Town zoning law says yes.
Well, the town zoning law basically would require clustering. And the town zoning law would require, if there was further subdivision, it would have to be a cluster subdivision with, I believe, 80% of the open space being preserved as part of that cluster. A conventional subdivision would be by special use permit only, and that would only be permitted if it could be demonstrated that it would be environmentally as benign as the cluster. Now, clearly, the visuals here are the primary values of that property, so it's hard to see how a conventional subdivision could not be more harmful to the community, to the environment, than a cluster would be. So, yes, a cluster subdivision could be proposed for that property, but it would not be a conventional subdivision of cutting it into 5 acre lots. No, that would be very, very unlikely, because I do not see how that possibly could qualify as environmentally benign as the cluster would be, should that decision be made. Although at this point, there's no desire, as I understand it, to do that. The desire is to continue it in farming.
That's good news.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, and I have a great interest in protecting that piece of property as well, because right there, I have to look at it, and that's why I own it, because I think
Other members of the public, comments? Okay, I believe we can,
You've got a composite resolution here.
yeah, which I'll read. This rolls everything into one so that we can, I believe it includes seeker, does it not?
Yeah, include seeker,
Okay.
because this is an unlisted action.
So let me zip.
It also repeats,
Not too bad.
Not too bad, it's only 3 pages.
it also sets forth at paragraphs A and B, 2 conditions that are already met, the ones I referred to, but they can stay in the resolution.
Okay. They have
But just just for Mr. Giuliano's benefit, just
Okay.
pointing out that we recognize that those conditions are met.
Okay, well, here we go. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board, upon noticing, posting, and conduct of public hearing, making of required referrals, and consideration of input received, hereby acts as follows in the matter of an application by Edward Giuliano for subdivision plat approval under Town Code Chapter 101, subdivision of land, to authorize proposed lot line alterations, adding a total of 5 acres to adjoining parcels and the creation of a 5.7-acre residential building lot.
And authorized flag lot.
From 71.6-acre parcel on New York State Route 308 East in the rural countryside RC5 district and a certified agricultural district, all is depicted on a preliminary surveyor's map prepared and stamped by John Decker, LS, and dated February 4th, 2014, and otherwise described within a short EAF Part 1 and an agricultural data statement, both as executed and/or verified Mr. Giuliano, being an unlisted action under seeker for which coordinated environmental quality review with other permitting and/or approving agencies is neither required nor has been conducted. 1, determines upon review of the short EAF Part 1 and its own completion of short EAF Part 2 in consideration of both the criteria for determining significance set forth at Title 6, Part 617.7C NYCRR, as well as the agricultural protection policy set forth in the New York State Agriculture and Markets Law, that proposed action as described in the application to the Planning Board will cause no potential significant adverse impact on the environment and thus issues a negative declaration, determination of non-significance, deeming an environmental impact statement to not be required and stating such will not be prepared. In accordance with this determination, further authorizes the chairman to so execute the first page of the short EAF and directs the planning board clerk to file and distribute as may be pertinent the short EAF with negative declaration annotation in the manner set forth within the secret implementing regulations, Title 6, Part 617.12 NYCRR. 2, approves the application for subdivision plat approval and authorizes the chairman to stamp and sign the subdivision plat for Edward Giuliano, minor 2-lot subdivision with associated lot line alterations, annexation parcels, upon the applicant's satisfaction of each of the below conditions and/or requirements within 180 calendar days of the planning board's adoption of the resolution. A, either design approval by the Dutchess County Health Department for proposed on-site water supply and sanitary sewage facilities on the proposed 5.7-acre residential building lot, or the submission of a letter from a New York State licensed professional engineer stating his opinion based on specifically referenced field investigation that a sanitary disposal system serving not less than a 3-bedroom dwelling can be designed and sited on the proposed lot in accordance with County Health Department standards, and we do have that. Submission of a letter from New York State Department of Transportation stating an individual lot driveway may be constructed within the frontage of the proposed 5.7-acre residential building lot, subject to issuance of a New York State DOT highway work permit, which we also now have. Submission for review by the Planning Board as to sufficiency and subsequent recording in the Dutchess County Clerk's Office simultaneously with the filing of the approved subdivision plat draft of consolidation or merger deeds, whereby each of the annexation parcels will be combined with the parcel to which it is being annexed, thus obviating what otherwise would be the creation of non-complying parcels. D, submission of subdivision plat drawings in the number and form specified within Town Code Chapter 101, including thereon both all required stamps, seals, and certifications set forth within Chapter 101, and notation as required under the New York State Agriculture and Markets Law pertaining to the relationship of the property shown on the subdivision plat to lands either within a certified agricultural district and the related preference afforded agricultural activities. E, stamping of the subdivision plat in the form required above as a non-jurisdictional subdivision or for filing purposes only by the Dutchess County Health Department. F, in consideration of the Planning Board's determination that it would not be appropriate to require set-aside of parkland within the Giuliano minor 2-lot subdivision, payment of a 1-lot cash in lieu of land recreation fee to the town of Rhinebeck for deposit in the town's recreation trust fund, this fee being in the amount of $3,000 as set forth in the town's planning and zoning fee schedule. 9, payment of any outstanding fees or reimbursable amounts due to the town of Rhinebeck with respect to the submission, review, and processing of this application under Town Code Chapter 101, Subdivision of Land, and next documentation, EAF Part 2. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And to close the public hearing.
And to close the public hearing, we're going to do this simultaneously.
So moved.
Okay, any discussion? I'll poll the board. Bob?
Aye.
Richard?
Aye.
Jesse?
Aye.
Melody?
Aye.
Woody?
Aye.
Sharon?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So, you're approved.
Subject-
Once you get all those things together, I can stamp and sign it, and then you can
So what?
rock and roll.
Take that extra one.
Okay. Anyone want to get up and stretch? Or shall we just keep right on going?
Keep right on going.
Keep right on oh, we see stretching. Right on going, okay. Our next public hearing, Carolyn Marks Blackwood, Grinnell Street, subdivision plat, special use permits and site plan. Combined public hearing on application for subdivision plat approval under Town Code, Chapter 101, subdivision of land, and application, special use permits, and site plan review and approval under Town Code, Chapter 125, zoning, to authorize the consolidation of 2 parcels into a single parcel totaling 6.61 acres at 64 Grinnell Street in the Rhinecliff Hamlet RCH and Rhinecliff Overlay Districts, the Hudson River National Historic Landmarks District, and the town's LWRA, and both the renovation and expansion of the existing dwelling and the construction of a new garage with second floor intended for use as a detached accessory dwelling unit, being a type 1 action under seeker and a matter of application pending before the ZBA. No, they did not.
I see.
Thank you.
My name is Steve Mensch. I'm representing Carolyn Blackwood. It's going to be a little awkward. Carolyn owns 3 parcels in Rhinecliff. This is Grinnell Street, James Street. This is the top of the hill. These are the 3 parcels that Carolyn owns. Carolyn and Greg Quinn. It's Carolyn Blackwood and Greg Quinn that are the owners. The middle parcel has an existing house on it. The southern parcel has an existing garage on it. The third parcel is vacant. There are 3 immediate neighbors, here, here, and here. This is the site plan, the existing site plan. The existing house was originally built in 1860. It's this small rectangular section. You'll see it more easily in the other photos. In about 1940, there was an addition placed on the south side, and in 1997, the addition on the south side was taken off, and a large new addition was built here. Our proposal involves consolidating these 2 sites, as you'll see in the graphics that follow, and keeping the third site open. The original section of the building is here. The 1997 addition is here. The chimney is part of a 1940 addition. It's the only thing that remains of that addition. This is the view to the north, or this is the north side. What you should be aware of, which you can't maybe tell so much in these pictures, is that in 1997, the original building was 100% effaced. There's not one surface, not one scrap of material that was visible from that construction. In 1997, it was resided. The windows were moved and replaced. The doors were moved and replaced. You can see here, this used to be 3/3, these windows. Everything was just completely changed in 1997. This is the view from, I'm sorry, I'm blocking.
That's all right. That's fine.
This is the view from the south. So that's the new addition. And what you can see in this picture is that there's a very unusual topography on the site. It drops off rapidly from the street. It has this strange bowl, which probably was carved out at the time when this addition was put on, probably to create some space here for a kind of a yard. It reveals that the soil here is all pretty much sandy loam. The site has wonderful views. In particular, it has a very dramatic view up the river to the bridge. You can't quite see it in this, but the bridge is right here, and it's a wonderful view. This is the existing garage. This is the space between the buildings looking west, and this is the vacant lot to the north. The vacant lot to the north is a very special lot. It's park-like, and as you can see, very beautiful. It's enjoyed by not only the neighbors, but by the many people who stroll and jog and push their perambulators up and down Grinnell Street. In thinking of how to add add space to this situation, we decided that any additional blocking of views would be here, which is a much inferior view, as you can see, to here. This is one of the houses right across the street. It's the northernmost of the two. And this is the view from that yard. So you can see the importance it has to that building. This is the other house across the street, and this is the view from the porch. So you can see it's also important to that building. This is the Haywood property to the south. This is the garage you saw in the other pictures with the existing garage apartment. And the main house, it's a beautiful property. That's how the two garages relate currently. This is the view from the back of the Haywood's house. It has a magnificent view to the west, and it has a slight view to the north. This is, obviously, this is taken in winter. When you get just this peak of a view, this is the existing house of Carolyn and Greg's. This is the existing garage. Before I take this down, you might notice that, well, I'll show you this in a different different photograph, but there's quite a drop from where you're standing right outside their house here to where the proposed construction is. There's about a 13-foot drop in elevation, which figured into the design, so just wanted you to keep that in mind. When Carolyn and Greg came to me, they came to me because they're familiar with my work. I do modern architecture, and they wanted the kind of project that they've seen me do in the past. The first words out of their mouth were, "Love the site, hate the house." The house has been utterly ruined, as I hope you agree by looking in those pictures. It's even worse inside than it is outside. A lot of tortured small spaces, lowered ceilings, no original detail whatsoever. It's a totally disagreeable little house. So they came to me in my house on the river, which has this view, and this is my living room. Carolyn walked into it and said, "This is it. This is what we want." So that was kind of my charge, right? And as far as their other program, the rest of their program, they don't need a big house. They're looking for a two-bedroom house, kind of a 2,500 square footer. Greg works away from the house, and so the small house suits their domestic needs. But Carolyn is a photographer and a film producer. She shows in New York. She's a very serious professional photographer. She works at home and needs a substantial studio there. She also needs archive quality storage, and a lot of it. Currently, if you step inside that house, you have to practically climb over the boxes because there are so many boxes of stored photographs. She also needs, for her work as a film producer, she needs a viewing room. And because she works internationally, she has partners who live in Europe. They come for sometimes weeks at a time. She needs a separate guest quarters for them where they can all have their privacy. So the program really comes into house. Oh, I didn't mention the garage. They want a garage. House, studio, and garage/guest quarters. So I went to the building department, talked to the zoning officer to find out what the problems were going to be, which are legion. And what I found out is what you probably, a lot of you already know, that in Rhinecliff, there are no real rules in Rhinecliff. Everything is a special permit. Everything requires site plan approval. There are guidelines, but there are no bulk regulations except for height. It's all really up to the board to determine what can happen there and what can't. However, there is this. It says, "Nothing contained herein, this is, I'm reading from the guidelines for the hamlet. Nothing contained herein shall prohibit the use of an existing lot of record for residential purposes, provided that, 1, such lot may not be used for more than one principal dwelling and one subordinate accessory structure. The remaining provisions all have to do with health approval, and I won't go into those here. They aren't really relevant here. The restrictions on the house are 2,300 square feet, and on the accessory structures are 650 square feet. So, looking at the lot, this is the maximum build-out of the lot. We could build 3 2,300 square foot houses and 3 650 square foot accessory dwellings. In this drawing, this is the existing house. The darker rectangles represent a 2-story house. That's in scale, that's 1,150 square feet. And the lighter gray represents 650 square foot accessory structures.
I don't know.
What's the question?
After talking to the building department and thinking about the programmatic requirements, I kind of withdrew from this project because I thought this is really going to be a pain in the neck. To try to do a modern building in the context of this historic building, to do it to keep it in scale with the neighborhood, to find a way to do it without interfering with the neighbors' views. It just didn't seem like something I wanted to undertake. It looked as though it was going to have to go in the direction of a type of renovation that I'm sure many of you have seen, where an old building, the facade is maintained on the street side, and the backside is basically ripped off and a modern backside is developed. And I wasn't interested in designing that kind of a building, so I kind of backed away. And in fact, I told Carolyn and Greg that, and they started looking for another architect. But this problem kind of haunted me. I kept thinking there's got to be a way. You can get a modern building in here somehow, and you can save the neighbors' views, and you can save the scale. There's got to be a way. And finally, in one of those eureka moments, I just thought, yes, there is a way. And I called Carol and Greg up, and I said, let's talk again. I think there's a strategy that might work here. This is the existing site. That's the existing building, that's the existing garage. I'm sorry, I made these as big as I could do it. I'm sure this is very hard to see. And I figured, all right, here, what if we take away the modern addition, restore the original 1860 building, we bury a new platform, a new building, an L-shaped building, taking advantage of that peculiar topography and the rapid drop-off, so that most of it would be completely windowless and underground, but the end toward the north would have the possibility of windows and using living space. Also, to take down the garage, which is a non-contributing structure, and by entering the garage, currently you enter it from the street up here. By entering the garage from the side, because there's a grade drop-off here, you could lower the garage level by 3.5 to 4 feet. And then add the desired apartment above it, with the result that the entire structure would only have to be about 6.5 feet higher than the present garage. On top of the base, the buried base, build the modern building. This is the living room, dining room, kitchen. And it is oriented to that long northern view up to the up to the bridge. There's a restored original building. Here we have living spaces as a bedroom. That's the new garage apartment. In doing it, I guess you might be getting the picture. I'm semi-retired. I don't take projects anymore unless I can do something really beautiful, which is why I was thinking I wasn't going to take this project. But when I came up with this scheme, I thought, yes, this really can be beautiful. And it can be magical and mysterious. Using the hedge to create the privacy, you enter into a kind of a 19th century forecourt. You go down a covered walkway, which is getting more and more dense and closer in scale. You go into a small entryway. Here, this is the stairway, kitchen stuff here. Then when you walk through this doorway, you're in this amazing, magical space. You're in kind of a little hidden garden in Rhinecliff. Your space is defined by the now restored little 19th century house, the hedge, and this amazing view up to the river. This is the lower level plan. To get from, let me bring this back. To get from here to here, you have to go down a stair. This is the corridor and into the old wing. Up a stair here to go to the studio level, up a stair again to go to the top floor bedroom level. This is all unexcavated here. Architecturally, this gives me the opportunity to do a modern building which is not attached or compromised by its relationship to the old building, and to maintain the old building, and it doesn't have to get compromised by any accretion of a modern building. That was very important to me. It was important that it be kept very low because the Haywoods property is up here, and I wanted them to be able to look over the building. And it also fits the aesthetic of the building that I was after. The kinds of buildings I do, the beauty of them comes from enclosing the experience with the very least gesture you can come up with, the least materials, the least of anything, to just whisper it in there. And that's where this comes from, is this very lean, minimal. All it does is protect you from the elements. So this is the existing, the Haywoods garage and the existing garage, and this is the proposed garage. Now, I don't like to do buildings that look like they weren't built in another time period, but in this case, I made an exception because I thought that on the street side, we would maintain that 19th century imagery. This, again, is the view from the Haywoods. You can see it's a huge view. This is as it is. Again, Carolyn's house you can see peeking through the trees there. This is with the proposal added. It's the new higher garage. That's the roof of the glass structure. This is the view from the street. The existing view, the proposed view. The building is 11 feet tall, but it also sits down a little bit from the street. And the idea is to completely screen it with the hedge. Let me talk a minute about the hedge, since this came up in the zoning meeting. Some people said, well, you can't put hedges like that in Rhinecliff. And so I went around Rhinecliff, and I photographed hedge after hedge. I've got a few here. There are many Rhinecliff hedges that are taller than the one we're considering. This is the one directly across the street on the far side of it. Here's another one. Probably these images are all familiar to those of you who. Here's a privet hedge, which of course in winter you can see through, but you can see how solid that would be in the summer. And here's a hemlock hedge, which is the Laybourne's hedge I see sitting over there. I want to, finally, try to show these together. It's a little clumsy. This is the view from the river currently. This is a little bit confusing. Obviously, I hope it's obvious. That's the house behind it. It's not part of the house in question. And this is the proposed view from the river. Again, make sure you disassociate this from this. And notice here also you can see more clearly the drop in elevation from the Haywood house, which is up here, to the elevation of this building, which is 13 feet lower. So when you're standing up here, your feet are 2 feet higher than the roof of the proposed structure. I guess I hope what you're seeing here, I see it, I hope you see it, is that it's a great improvement on what is there. It's more modest in scale, and it's just also more attractive. Since the question of the view of it from the river has come up, and I'm sure will come up, I want to talk a little bit about the broader context of the project. Kingston. This is what's there. I'm sure you all know. An aggressively ugly project. It's directly across from the sites that we're looking at. And that's not the worst, because there are going to be 2 more projects built across the river. They would have been built by now if we hadn't had a recession. Scenic Hudson is doing what they can to fight it, but all they're managing to do is get it a little bit smaller. So this is what we can expect to have just north of the roundout That's the proposed plan. The proposal includes, I think, 1,400 units. That's the rendering that they've offered. I think Scenic Hudson has bargained them down to 1,200. I bring that up especially because in our thinking, we have to include that probability. It's almost a certainty. So coming back to our side of the river, this is the property immediately to the north. This is the Haywood's house. And immediately to the north of that starts the row of very large houses. This is the next house north, and then, south. And then to the north is the hamlet. I'd like to talk a little bit about the hamlet and my feeling about it. I just think it's one of the greatest places I know. When I moved to Rhinebeck 20 years ago, I just thought, almost would have moved into Rhinecliff had I found the right place. But then I found the waterfall house that many of you know, and the rest is history there. Anyway, I love Rhinecliff, but not because it's intact. It's not intact. Rhinecliff is a mix of wonderful stuff. It's full of energy. It's full of vitality. It is not a 19th century village by any stretch of the imagination. There are many 19th century buildings and many 20th century buildings. Almost all the 20th century buildings are not distinguished. This is not Lakeville. This is not a little Connecticut 19th century village. I love those little villages. I love that style of 19th century architecture. I wouldn't want to live in one because I would find it oppressive. But I much prefer Rhinecliff with all of its variety and its energy and its kind of maverick individualism. And I think to try to constrain it and make it into a village from another time is a big mistake. I think that's not what it is. That's not what it wants to be. And it's a mistake to try to make it into that. Rhinecliff was at one time proposed. It was nominated for the national historic to be a national historic place, and the nomination was declined. And this is what they say: the present character of Rhinecliff recalls its heyday during the late 19th century. Although few properties retain sufficient integrity of design and materials to meet the National Register criteria. Period. Extensive 20th century alterations to the older buildings and a large number of modern intrusions throughout the hamlet preclude the creation of a historic district. And I say, good news for you guys. When I went to the building department, as I mentioned before, and I said, well, what's the deal? What are the rules? The response I got was, the rules are you do whatever the board lets you do and you don't do what the board doesn't let you do. And it all depends on who's on the board and what their taste is. Well, that's not the best news for an architect. And I say that as though I were outraged by it, but there's a good reason why it is that way. There's so much variety and so little regularity in Rhinecliff that it would be very hard to come up with uniform regulations that made any sense. You almost have to deal with it project by project, site by site. Well, that places a terrible responsibility on the board, especially since in so many cases, and very much so in this case, we're talking about taste. What do you think it should be? What do you think is right? What do you think is right? I don't like modern. I do like modern. It's a lot of it comes down to taste, and that's a serious burden to place on a board. I would say, but it's a necessary burden in this situation. I would just say that the burden of fairness. There should be a high bar. There should have to be a pretty serious intrusion on what the board considers to be the neighborhood or the situation before denying a person his or her individual rights. Not that it shouldn't be denied in cases, but it should be a high bar. It shouldn't be just, oh, I don't like that, or gee, I think they should be old buildings. That won't do. That doesn't cut it. It's a more serious and a more responsible decision than that. Here's the guideline for the Rhinecliff Hamlet. The guidelines are designed to encourage creativity by providing a framework that will allow for new architecture using criteria based on the compatibility of the new building's setback, scale, massing, and material. And then it goes on to list a whole bunch of things, but they're all very subjective in general. They leave it really up to the taste of the board. So let me summarize. To go back, this is what's permitted without variance under zoning. This is what we're proposing. We've really made an effort to accommodate the neighbors' views, to be as gentle with people's sensibilities as we can be, to screen the building to the maximum extent possible, to maintain the scale of the neighborhood. As I said before, it should be a pretty high bar before you deny someone the right to develop their property. And if I can't see it here, this is a pretty low bar, in my opinion. I would say that the project can best be evaluated in a kind of summarial way with just a couple of images. Let me go back to this. Does it intrude on the river? Is it better or worse? If you think it's worse, how big a deal is it? Remember that you have to judge that in the context of all that's going on in Kingston, the major huge houses to the south, the roadway down to the waterfront and the cross over the bridge in the town itself. These are major events in that view. I mentioned this to someone and they said, well, you can't think about Kingston because that doesn't count. It's not in the 32-mile scenic district. Well, excuse me, but when you're on a boat, does it matter? I mean, can you tell where you're in the district and when you're not? If the idea is to provide to protect the experience of the people going up and down the river, or if we really think we need to protect the view of the people in Kingston after what they're doing to us, then you have to include what's going on in Kingston. So this is major stuff, and we're doing this little teeny-weeny thing up on the top of the bluff. The last thing I'd like to offer is a model. the easiest way to see from the river is what I've just shown you. The easy way to understand it from the street is in the model. It's very hard to, I tried to do a rendering like these from the street, but there's no way to get a picture of it. It's too wide. You can't get, there are bushes across the street. You can't get the picture. But you can definitely very much get the picture by looking at the model. So I'm going to bring it out. It's kind of clumsy. I would ask patience from the board here, because I think that people in the room who are concerned about this should have an opportunity to look at this model, and I think the board members too should take a second to look at it, because it's really by far the best way to understand the implications of what we're proposing. So I'll bring it out.
Okay, while Steve's doing that, Joni, all notification, everything was taken care of? And did we hear from the county? We did, actually, local concern. Okay.
Michael, the other thing is, Stephen, on behalf of his client, did amend the application to the planning board so that it is consistent with the application to the ZBA. The residential structure here is 4,096 square feet, not the 3,480 that was quoted in the, was presented in the original application to the planning board.
Correct.
So that has been clarified. The only other question I would have is, at the last meeting, maybe Stephen hasn't gotten to this yet, but at the last meeting, the board did request that there be pre-construction archaeology conducted on this property, and the board, I would think, would want to inquire as to the status of that effort. Has an archaeologist been engaged, et cetera?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Archaeology.
Oh, yes. We understand that archaeology will be required.
Has an archaeologist been engaged? Is that work underway?
Well, we wouldn't do that until we know we're going to be able to.
It's part of the application. It will be, I think.
It's going to cost $20,000. Are we going to do it before we know whether the project is even feasible or not?
I believe that in the past, that is one of the things we have done, is the information that would require. I don't see why it would cost $20,000, basically for a phase one archaeological
Well, it cost
review.
$20,000 for me to do it for my building that I just built, and it was affecting less square footage than this.
Phase one?
Phase one?
Phase one report?
Well, they looked around and they said, no, we got to do a phase two.
Well, then
Well, that's a phase.
that's how it got to 20,000.
Right.
But in any case, it wasn't required when I did it until it was a condition of the approval.
Correct.
But
Right.
phase one is what we're talking about.
Right, phase one is what we're talking about.
Well, anyway, I mean, obviously, we'll do whatever's required, but no, nothing's been hired yet. I also wanted to mention, two board members were on the site the other day, and the zoning board was there last week. The zoning board has asked that a pole be erected at the corner of the building to indicate the height. So, and I did that over the weekend. The building has now been laid out. There's a pole here at the height of the building. And the other four corners are staked. So here's the model. I hope that this, I know the logistics are difficult here, but I hope that there can be an opportunity for people who are concerned to take a look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, let people go up and look. People are making public
yeah,
comment.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do.
We're not going to break.
Right.
I don't want to break.
Okay.
This is the bluff that drops 120 feet to the river.
What I think we're going to do is we continue on. People should feel free to come up and take a look while we continue on, just so we can keep on moving. And I'd like to go through a couple of the other things we would like to hear from. The report of the Town Conservation Advisory Board.
Consolidation of parcels in the historic landmark district, and especially along the Hudson River, is encouraged and desired. The original house on the property is not on the National Register, but is considered a, quote, contributor to the hamlet. The applicant intends to make this a green project using geothermal heating and cooling and building to Energy Star standards. The glass addition will have a flat roof and a low profile being set into an excavated site. An archaeological review was discussed. A planted roof was suggested. Concerns by the Haywoods family were visual, with the flat roof of the glass addition and with the height of the second floor of the accessory building. The accessory building has the potential to compromise the river views to the north for their home and for their rental unit. Leaf out of the existing landscaping between the two properties and additional evergreen landscaping would hide the view of the flat roof. The Haywoods have a beautiful panoramic view of the Hudson River, and any interruption to those views from this proposal would be seasonal and slight. The CAB has no environmental concerns. We advise that Town Historian Nancy Kelly be consulted.
And while you're there, do you have a report from the Town Waterfront Advisory Committee on the consistency with the LWRP?
I don't have any updated information on that, Mike.
Okay. Moving right along to a report by the Town Historian, if there's anything, Nancy, you'd like to add.
Well, I do have the information from the National Register, and it is marked as a contributing structure. I compliment the architect and the homeowner on the innovative design. It's quite ingenious, but it presents many questions and must be monitored to provide a result that will not detract from the hamlet setting while accomplishing the goals of the homeowner. The expansion of the building to accommodate this design will provide more density than allowed for the lot. Isn't that what we're getting at ZBA?
There is an application before the ZBA now for that purpose, yes.
Not for density, though.
The lot to the north has been
For the
proposed
size
as
of the
open
square footage.
space to compensate for this. But will sufficient safeguards be put in place so the lot will not be developed in the future? I think you need to have.
Clarify that. I think there needs to be a clarification for everyone on that point. The ZBA, the application to the ZBA does not deal with the matter of lot coverage. The application to the ZBA deals with the square footage of the residential structure. The zoning law prescribes a maximum permitted square footage of 2,300 square feet. In this particular case, the structure is 4,096. That's what the variance application is about. It is in no way related to the square footage or the area of the lot on which that structure is to be located.
I sort of misspoke myself then on
Well,
that.
I just wanted to clarify that for everyone.
Thank you. The garage is going to be demolished, and isn't the required side yard 20 feet?
In the Hamlet Overlay District, there are no required setbacks.
Seems too bad that those two buildings were built so close together. The building materials, which we usually look for in the hamlet, are traditional building materials. In this case, the large plate glass windows and the use of concrete or stucco are not in keeping with the Rhinecliff Historic District. Some use of stone, field stone, would have helped to tie it in a little more. Another point about the garage height, I'm concerned that second story on the garage will actually come up and prevent any view from the apartment in the Haywoods garage. They're saying that it's not that high, but I don't buy that. I would think that it might be possible to, instead of having such a high roof on the garage, have more of a flat roof or a shed roof in such a way that it would be less intrusive. There is a section in the Hamlet regulations prevent building of the second story on a one-story building, which results in visual intrusion to neighboring properties. I'm understand that the proposed hedge would have the effect of blocking the view of the new, more modern structure. There is some concern about establishing a hedge, and I don't know if you're having any problem with deer in Rhinecliff. I certainly am having problems with deer in my area. The photo taken from 68 Grinnell Street with the pole indicating the height of the new structure shows that there will be obstruction of view from that neighboring lot. So I think that those are my comments. Do you need a copy of the National Register?
I think we have that.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we have that.
So I have this to leave with you.
Thank you. Okay, I think, who did the site? Melody and, who did the site
Sharon.
visit? Sharon and?
Sharon and Woody.
Sharon Woody, okay. Would you guys like to report on your findings?
Well, firstly, my comments are geared on what I saw the day I was there. Pictures that I've seen, some of these pictures are new, some of these renderings are new to me, so bear with me. Firstly, I think that the project itself is very ambitious, very creative, and controversial. Okay? The Haywood family has sent a letter in voicing their concerns, and I think their viewscape, they have a legitimate concern about it, and I think that's an open switch, and we have to resolve that before we approve this. A couple things that I have as general questions is, now are we considering building A and B, which would be the cube and the existing building, as one structure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That to me previously was not clear. Okay,
They're-
again, new
Right,
information.
right.
Okay. They are connected underground, so I think they should be
Yes.
considered as
Right.
one structure. The other question I have is the cube, and that's not a negative remark, it's just my description of the modern structure. Does it fit into the Rhinecliff overlay? I don't know the answer to that. And just going beyond that, some of my observations or comments, the hedge, I think this hedge proposal is a little bit over the top because it not only blocks the view of the building, but it also blocks a portion of the view of the river from the people walking down, riding down, whatever, however they get by the house. When I was down there, some of the renderings of the cube, and it wasn't clear to me what the height visually would be. The poles are a new addition. I have not seen what that looks like in real sense, so I can't give you a decision on that. And one of the things that I find interesting is the cube, the footprint, based on the renderings that I have, is bigger than the existing house, physically bigger, which is kind of interesting. And again, the height of the garage and the cube were not clear. Everything was guesstimates at the time. So I guess in hindsight, or in the future, I think we have to go revisit all those things again now that we have new information and new insights. That's all I have.
Sharon?
The garage, is it actually a garage? Well, is there garage doors?
Yes. You can see it in the model.
Is it, it's kind of hard to tell from this picture here, but,
Yeah, that is the garage door you're looking at.
Okay. So that was, but the whole building's only 11 feet high?
No, the 11 feet is the height of the living room, the modern structure.
Okay.
The garage is, well, it's 6.5 feet higher than the existing garage. I think that would make it about 16 feet, 16 to 17 feet.
Did you put a pole there marking the height of that so we could see it in relation to the apartment in the garage at Haywood's? So we could see
For the
how
garage? No, I didn't, but I can do that.
So we could see if it's going,
Yeah, I
it's going
understand.
to
I can do
interfere
that.
with, you know, It's, how far between those two garages, do you know?
7.5 feet.
So, I mean, so if we were in the window in the garage apartment at Haywood's, if we're looking out the window, where's that roof going to be?
It would be about in the middle of the window.
Okay, that's what it looks like in here. And my other question is, when you're talking about restoring the 1800s house portion, you said it's, what's there is, there's nothing left of the historical part, so you're just talking about the exterior will have historical attributes?
Yeah, it'll look like, it'll be, in essence, a new building. There's no way to get around that.
Right,
It's
but
in
you're
essence in a building already.
But the siding?
But we will make it look as much like we can imagine it looked when it was built as possible.
You had spoken about the windows you were going to put in.
Right.
Different windows.
Yes, we would go back to the type of window that was used at the time. Originally, I drew that in as a 6/6 window, and then I tried a 4/4, and then I went around the hamlet and found that most of them are really 2/2. So that's probably what we'd use.
And I have concerns about the drawing here of the hedge. It's really high and it totally blocks the view of anyone going up and down that section of the road. And my other question that we addressed at the site visit was was it 2 walls of glass and the sun reflecting off them in the afternoon? I know you're not, the river's, Port Ewan is totally built up, but there's other sections over there where you're going to get this afternoon glare. So is there some way that you can maybe tilt the windows, the glass, so that the glare would not be so strong?
Well, you'd have to tilt it a lot.
You don't want to annoy the people over in Kingston because,
God forbid, we shouldn't annoy those
Well,
Kingstonians.
better yet, get them to move so you can get their attention.
We should focus it on them.
Well, you know, rather than straight, I mean, maybe just a slight, couple inches could make a difference possibly.
Well, if you're in a boat, it would probably make it worse for you. It would reflect it down more instead of out more. So I don't think there's any winning in terms of where you would direct the light.
So, yeah, we do have to see the height of that. I think the garage height is a major concern, and I think the hedge is a major concern.
The hedge, of course, it doesn't have to be that high. It's that high because we don't want to offend anyone by having them look at a modern building. We could make it 7 feet high, and then you'd have to look at a little bit of modern building. Choose your poison. One thing I might add, it came up in the zoning meeting. We proposed to consolidate 2 of the sites, and in the current proposal, we do not consolidate the 3rd. But since the hearings, the public hearing in zoning, we've agreed to consolidate all 3, so that there'd be no possibility of any future construction on the vacant land.
That would be something that you could volunteer. That is not something the planning board could require, the consolidation of the 3rd lot.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
Just so everyone understands that.
We're bargaining, baby.
Yeah, I know you are. I know you are. Anything else, Sharon?
Can't think of anything at the moment.
Okay. Any questions or things from the planning board at the moment?
I have a technical question. Stephen, or either Stephen or your client, how much of the square footage of the structure is the residence, and how much of the square footage is essentially studio space?
The studio is only 1 floor of what was the old building, and that would be about 600 square feet, maybe. A lot of the square footage is uninhabitable basement. About 1,000 square feet is windowless basement. So the pavilion, the glass pavilion is well, the glass part of it is 17 by 36, so whatever that is. The whole building is 29 by 36, the whole modern building.
and about 600 square feet is home occupation, estimated.
Yes.
Why is he saying?
For the studio,
Studio
yes.
use.
Yeah.
Why I bring up that point is
What's the
there
rest
is a
of it?
provision in the town zoning law, which exists in most town zoning laws. There's a restriction on home occupation to no more than 500 square feet,
We do need to know about the.
or
home occupation
25%
thing.
of the structure, whichever is the more restrictive. So in this particular case, there is a restriction on the usage of space for a home occupation to 500 square feet. Anything greater than that is considered a commercial use under the zoning law, as well as the state building code.
I've never seen that.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to use this as a movie room in the house. You will not be able to use it as a,
Well, we have a separate movie room. But, I mean, how do you call it a study? Well, I mean,
No, it's not what you call it, it's how you use it.
yeah.
I have a question about, because there were a lot of letters here, and I think it boils down to the view. I don't think most people deny the fact that it's probably going to be a beautiful place. But one of these letters said there were going to be hedges across all 3 lots. Your model and your pictures seem to show otherwise.
This is 100% accurate.
So the 3rd lot, though, that seems park-like, will that have hedges across it, or?
No, well, it may have a low hedge, as is shown in this model. Currently, there's a problem because it looks so much like a park that people just wander out onto it and picnic. So she wants to demarcate, and so it would be something low.
Get into these.
So but these here.
Yeah, that's the full extent of them.
Privacy for home, they don't exist over this area.
No.
So if you're walking down the street, you still have that.
That's right.
And so it's just this area with the higher hedges.
I'm in the public, so we need to read. Yeah.
Anyone else from the planning board at the moment? Okay, what I have here is I have a number of letters from all of you, and what I can do here is ask you if you would like to read your letter or just come up and make a public comment. All of this is entered into the public record. But in particular, I know that the Haywoods have some significant concerns here, but if I read all the letters I have here, we're really going to be here till breakfast. So what I'd like to do is I'll read your name off, ask you if there's something you'd like to read or say, speak up. As I say, everything is in the public record. We have all of it, and I think that the comments, certainly I was at the ZBA meeting the other night, and I imagine a lot of those concerns will be expressed here tonight. So I'd like to go down through these if I could at the moment, and I have one here from a Margaret Clinton. Would you like to read your letter?
No, it's okay. I was hoping I could
Okay.
We need to
Okay.
read
Well,
that
it's a
one.
short one, so I'll read it, because it's not a long one. Because you want the people here to hear what your concerns are.
It also should be in the planning board record. Zoning board record doesn't count in the
Right.
planning board.
So that's right. What was said at the zoning board of appeals doesn't come here, just because I was there and I did come here. So, okay. Well, I'll read this one. To the Rhinebeck Town Planning Board, I am writing in regards to the proposed variance request, and this was the variance request, but I believe this also applies to the special use permit and site plan request. Okay. By Carolyn Blackwood of 64 Grinnell Street. I have very strong concerns about the impact of this proposal on the beautiful view of the Hudson River and Catskill Mountains from Grinnell Street. I also have concerns about the impact this proposal would have on the surrounding homes as well as the people who travel to Grinnell Street to enjoy the views. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. And put this one here for the moment. I have one here from John Donata.
Let me just comment on it. It's pretty lengthy. A lot of it was already covered. Yes, my name's John D. Noter. I reside at 55 Grinnell, directly across the street from the northern lot, the park-like lot that's going to remain park-like. I do feel that it should be 3 parcel for the project to protect the northern parcel. The other issue I have is on any frontage of any home, fencing is restrained to 4 feet, and it's at the frontage. This is beyond frontage. This is the Hudson River. This is the Catskill Mountains. This is a drop-dead gorgeous view. So somehow there should be some kind of scenic easement where they're not allowed to obstruct the view on the remaining parcel, because the first two sections are going to be very much obstructed, almost like a wall when you put all the buildings and the hedges together. So if we're going to lose that, the other has to be protected, and the only way you can protect it is make the three parcels one, and put a scenic easement on it that they can't obstruct the view. So that would take care of the view. The way it is now, if they like, a year or two from now, they can just continue the wall of hedges down. I think it violates the fencing, you know, and the berm. I read about berms and fencing and so forth in front of properties. And anything over 4 foot, I think, would violate that frontage thing, but also taking consideration the special view we have. So somehow I'd like to see, it appears on a scenic vista map, actually, that exact property. It's just so drop-dead gorgeous, sunsets and so on and so forth. So my concern is to protect that. If they go ahead with the project, we're actually going to lose some scenic view. So we don't want to have to come back here and it's a separate lot and we're going to construct something on that separate lot 3, 4, 5 years down the road, or decide that I need all my privacy and all of a sudden, you know, we have monster hedges and they're going to say, well, it's not a fence and it's not a structure and it's not a this. A wall of hedges blocking a view is basically a structure when you line them up and pile them up like that, or you put earth or whatever it is. So that's my main concern. I don't know if this is the right place, but I figured I'd voice it tonight.
It is.
That the three parcels would be one, and there would be something put on the deed that the scenic vista is to remain and not be obstructed. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
I have one here from Robert Fox. Not here, so let me read this one. Dear Chairman and Planning Board members, I am pleased to submit this letter with regard to 64 Grinnell Street. Throughout the course of history, many architects have not had the talent or spent the appropriate time or energy crafting creative solutions to their design problems. The resulting buildings were built to suit a need with no thought to context or artistic expression. What a shame it would be if all our structures fit this model. Over time, creative architects have provided solutions in unique settings. Located in Midtown Manhattan on Park Avenue, the Seagram building, when built, was a radically minimalist icon flanked by traditional masonry buildings. The incredibly modern intervention of its open urban plaza and glass and bronze facade have now become commonplace and desirable in many similar business districts. Mies van der Rohe's bold statement in 1958 forever changed the shape of urban architectural design. Susan C.'s house, located on Grinnell Street and also authored by Stephen Mensch, is an example of contemporary architecture utilized to solve a design problem and has elevated the architectural discourse of Rhinecliff. I believe we should support the power of artistic license founded on control and context while granting freedom for designers to design buildings of their time. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my support. And I have from Kathleen E. Flynn. Is she here?
Yes.
Would you like to read your letter?
No.
Would you like to comment?
My concerns continue to be the same that I voiced the other night at the zoning
Read the
board
letter.
next door. And I'm concerned about the topography of the land, the ability to support more storage demands in the area, the obstruction of the view, and that truth is a lot of things do not seem to be to scale. I think Steve has great architectural ability, and he's impressive. But my concern is that does it truly fit into the context of the neighborhood itself?
Okay. I'll read your letter since of the number of points you've raised here.
Which are different than others.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, well, but you have 6 here, so I'll just read it into the record. I have several concerns regarding this request. They are as follows. 1, all of the Rhinecliff Hamlet is within the Federal Historical Preservation Zone. Will these guidelines be adhered to, or is the row of trees to hide the design of the art studio? Mr. Mensch once before submitted a design for another home in Rhinecliff on Grinnell Street. It can certainly be said that it is not within the federal standards, nor does it work within the TND. The saying goes, first time, shame on you, second time, shame on us. 2, Mr. Mensch has said that any type of blasting will not be required, excuse me, when doing the buildings at 64 Grinnell Street. Will he be held to that statement, or will he be able to blast out the areas behind the old house and where the studio would be placed if he has a problem? Will the stability of the cliff remain intact? I'm quite sure that the ridge behind the house will also be leveled to provide a better view from all basement areas. 3, the renderings that were presented look like the studio overhangs the cliff's edge and will obstruct more of the Haywood's view to the northern part of the river. It made me extremely concerned when Mr. Mensch would not even consider the zoning committee's suggestion of possibly moving the studio back only 10 feet from where he is planning it to be. Is that because there really is no room to move it back, or because they refuse to move the building back from the overhang?